would say one of my biggest struggles before I started meditation was with anxiety.
Stress and family issues.
Addiction. I'm a recovered alcoholic.
Raising 2 teenagers with my job.
I wasn't, satisfied. I wasn't fulfilled. I thought to myself in my early 20s, this can't be everything.
Well, I'd just gone through a separation when I first was introduced to KMC Colorado, and I was very lost.
I've had depression, anxiety, whole life.
I'm a flight attendant. I work on the airline, and so I'm constantly interacting with strangers in a somewhat stressed environment.
I work in logistics, so everything doesn't always go 100% perfect.
I was at a protest for peace, but lots of people were getting angry.
We all struggle in a lot of ways.
It's a constant daily battle to stay balanced.
I was looking for relief and answers to anxiety and depression in the wrong place. I was looking for the magic pill or the magic situation.
I thought, at least at that age, that I had uncovered what it was that would make me happy, achieved, checked off everything on my list from my parents' list.
I just came to a time in my life when I was looking for more answers.
What my larger purpose is in this world.
I had a lot of questions about death and life.
I'm an inquisitive person, and I was always seeking an answer.
I knew there was something more to life.
They forgot to give me the manual for what's the purpose of life.
And I felt empty.
Modern Buddhism is Buddhism, obviously, and it's all the teachings that came from Buddha Shakyamuni, who lived 2,500 years ago. Those teachings have come down to the modern age in a completely unbroken tradition. Are completely unbroken. Those things have all been practiced for 2,500 years and they've been effective, which is why they're still around. So the modern part is because those teachings are now accessible to a much wider audience than perhaps they were back in India or back in Tibet. So nowadays, those teachings, the way it's presented is very practically. It's the authentic and deep teachings of Buddha, but there's always some emphasis on how can you take the meaning of this teaching and use it to actually transform yourself, transform your life, transform your relationships.
What I really like at KMC is the teachings that actually help me change.
It just made sense. Like the logic of the class really voiced what I'd been thinking.
They gave me the answers that I was looking for.
There's just so many practical things that are taught.
There's a straightforward, clear method.
Because the teachings are so accessible,
I feel like I can actually apply it in my day-to-day life.
It's really empowering to be able to look at your own problems with your own mind and come up with a really logical, helpful solution.
You walk out of a class with like 4 or 5 different things that you can try.
This is helping me. I understand. Let me try this out while I'm taking the light rail into work.
There isn't a situation in my life that it doesn't help me deal with, and I feel like probably the main thing that I first noticed was my marriage got so much better.
I think I'm a better parent because of it.
It helps me cope, helps me relax, to focus my attention on things that are truly important in life.
How to treat people kindly, how to live a healthy life.
The more I learned here about changing that perspective and looking within,
It became part of who I was, and it completely changes the way that I see other human beings.
In its simplicity, it just opens me up.
I believe what's been going on in Denver has saved people's lives.
It's life-changing. It's been life-changing for me.
Kadampa Buddhism, the tradition has been around since the time of Buddha, actually, and then indirectly through a great Indian master called Atisha and a great Tibetan master called Tsongkhapa. It's an unbroken lineage of instruction, which landed up in the heart of my teacher, who's called Venerable Geshe Kelsang Gyatso. I met him when I was 18. He basically walks the walk and talks the talk. He'd already had a huge monastic education. He went to a long retreat. And then he was asked by his teacher to come out and bring Buddha's teachings to the West. What he found out is that People in the West, they don't have time to sit around in monasteries all day long. They're very busy. They like to be practical. They want things to work straight away. He understood all that. At the same time, his extraordinary understanding and experience of Buddha's teachings. And what he did is he really brought those two things together, has been doing and still is actually, bringing those two things together, that ancient wisdom with people's modern and quite frankly busy, often distracted lives. And it translates everywhere, because when he started, and when I first came along, there was 2 centers, and now there's, I believe it's 1,400. They're in like 40 countries around the world, and I think that's testament to how adaptable this ancient wisdom is to our modern society. It's very relevant.
Years ago, there was a guy in Fort Collins who had encountered Geshe-la's books, and he requested a teacher.
We sent a teacher, Gen Losel.
So when I arrived here in Denver, fresh from the UK, I had 2 suitcases, one full of robes, one full of books, and a box of statues that Geshe had given to me.
It didn't take very long, actually. People kind of caught on pretty quickly.
And one of the first places where I taught here in Denver was here at the Ralph Waldo, what was the Ralph Waldo Emerson Center.
The Emerson Center back then had a big auditorium.
It was really exciting because here, for the first time, people in Denver, or at least in this particular area, were able to come to Buddhist teachings and learn how to meditate.
You know, already by 2002, there was a big crowd.
We were at Lafayette, and we decided it was time to move to another larger location because we were ooping out.
For quite a while, we had just a small meditation room.
But then one day, a young student at the center, he came rushing in. He said, I found the place.
It was actually on Refuge Day that Mark found it.
And we had the first teachings in it. It felt like so spacious. Which is really funny because when we left, it was like so crowded.
We were having classes at Marion Street, and our meditation room is just basically a converted living room. So there was a point at which the classes were just bursting at the seams. We looked and looked and looked at building after building after building. We looked in all sorts of different neighborhoods, and then the Glenarm building arose. I really saw the community come together and think about how we could better benefit the larger Denver area. And that's what motivated us to move to a downtown space that was much bigger.
It's wonderful because it's this old brick building, and then you step inside and it's just this beautiful, peaceful room with the Buddha statues that we got. I remember when we heard that we were going to be getting this center, and they told us about the statues we were going to be getting, and they're even more beautiful than what I remember being described.
Every time I'm at the center, I feel different than when I'm not at the center. And I don't know how to really describe it.
Once I went to my first regular meditation class, I just fell in love.
You walk in and everything's kind of pacified.
As soon as I first started coming to classes, I knew that was what I was looking for.
I always feel welcome when I come here.
My son just sat down with the other kids, and we felt like we could just walk in and just have a seat.
Everybody's welcome here.
People of every background coming to meditation classes.
No matter what background or faith you may have.
Anybody can drop into these classes.
I felt like I could always ask any kind of question.
One of the first things my teacher told me then was, don't believe a single thing I say because I say it's true.
Ask the hard questions and ask them to yourself.
I actually like it when the teacher says, try this for yourself. Do you believe this? Question it. Does it work?
The first thing that drew me to KMC Colorado was being able to meditate with other people, because I think there is a great power in that.
When you meditate at home, it's helpful, but there's a very different experience when you meditate in a group.
It's everything. It's really hard to practice in a vacuum.
There is power in our collective getting together, our setting intentions, dedicating or praying.
Being surrounded by others who have exactly the same mindset and goal during that meditation is really, really powerful.
It's always helpful to be around people who have a common goal.
Being a part of this community here and meeting all these amazing people who are now my friends.
People I love that are doing the same thing.
I think that we impact each other in ways that we don't understand.
I imagine that the world is ready for this idea.
Meditation in general and Buddhism, I think, is an idea as time has come because it enables us to really be at the cutting edge of solving the world's problems. I know that sounds grandiose, but I think if we understand that problems come from within the mind in the first place, then we understand why these teachings that are about healing the mind can play such a big part in our society. And it's not like meditation and Buddhism is about escaping to our little escape pods and just staring at our navel. It's not like that at all. It's like the opposite, because meditation takes us into the heart of who we are. It takes us into the heart of reality and enables us to transform ourselves and transform our world.